Right, I thought I'd just show you some of this code for the Arduino unit I'm working on for this MC145170. Now the code's expanded quite a bit, so if I go like down, it's like say 1600 lines. But so I've got lots of comments and formatting and spaces and stuff like that. So that's the way I tend to do things. My voice is still recovering, so I'm a bit croaky still. I've been sick, so I had a really sore throat. It's slightly better, but not great. Anyway, the issue I was having, if I can find the damn thing, is where? No, where the hell is it? I've lost it. Anyway, I'm trying to find the display section, which sets up the well, controls the digits. Here we go, it's in here. What I've got in here is a for loop which starts here, right? Now this loop runs move something around, go back, trying to highlight it. So this loop here runs right down, sets up all the segments, right? So if it's got a digit, and that's the segments it turns on the displays, right? I've actually got it so you can set the polarity, so you can do either common cathode or common anode displays. So that's just convenient. So this is the whole if statement, the formal statement down here, right? So I'm going to put this big delay in here at the end, which is basically 3 milliseconds of that timing, in order to stop that ghosting on display where it's like merging the digits on one of them. So it's got like a shadow display, but that slows down the whole process. So what I was trying to do before was actually put a timed function in there, so it only trigger every 10 times or whatever, right? So once every 10 times it will trigger it. But what I'd forgotten to account for is the fact that this is a for loop. It doesn't get out of this until it's finished doing it. So I was putting a thing in here to say, hey, don't do any more until it's done 10 loops or whatever, based on time. But because it was within the for loop, it was never getting out of the for loop. So it's line 20 something, right? And the actual timing is set down here in the main loop. And because it was running in that display section, it was never getting back here to refresh the timing, and so it's just basically stopping, waiting for the timing to be updated so I could do the next loop. So I completely missed that aspect of it. I don't know how I've looked at. Here. Alright, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change this for loop here to not be a for loop. I'm just going to do an if statement, and I'm going to check for a variable which I'm going to flag. Right, so the variable's already here, which is used in the for loop. If I is 0 or if I is 1, which case is first digit, second digit. Alright, and it's controlling each digit, so it turns one off, turns the other one on, and vice versa. Or on, off, on, whatever. Alright, which is all I really need to do. But I need to do that switching on and off at a lower frequency, so that the whole code of the entire Arduino will run without having to use delays. Right? I'm using delays to try and time it better and get the displays to have less ghosting on them, and that's not good. It's slowing everything else down. I don't want that. Right? So I need to get rid of these delays. Now I did actually have a bit in here which I wrote. Here we go, just here. This little section here does work, and what that does actually allows us to dim the display. So I'm going to be leaving this piece in place, but I did have some other ones around the place. I think I've taken them out actually. I had no one up here which I will take out. So this is an if statement here. Actually, I'll probably just modify this bit here for the one I'll need. But yeah, so this section here would allow me to dim display, because it's after I've got it set to turn all the segments off. It then turn both the digits off, so everything is off, and then redraw it. Okay, using all this digits section. So it'll If it's a number, it will turn on, you know, effectively a 0 on the display, and so on. And yes, so it occurred to me that, hey, the reason it's not working is because I'm trying to delay it within a for loop using a timer which is updated outside of the for loop, so that's not going to happen. And because the for loop will do one digit then the other digit, and then even if I put a delay outside of that, I'm still getting that ghosting because it's doing one then the other immediately, which is why this delay down the bottom here is working, well, at least helping it. But the side effect is that it slows the rest of the code down. So a delay that worked really well was about 6 milliseconds. That worked quite well. The ghosting pretty much went away with that. But the rotary encoder got unresponsive, and it's just like, no, it's just no good. So I just need to change that loop system. So instead of being a for loop, it's a variable based loop. Because the code runs continuously through everything, right? It calls the encoder, checks the values, updating, right? Updates the display, or checks the display and updates the display. Saves the channel if it needs to, if it's changed, that kind of thing, right? Well, Siglent channel saves the encode, the band, the channel, the step setting, that sort of stuff. And this bit down here is checking for button presses on the rotary encoder. It checks the timing. That's all it's doing. This is really simple. So the button's pressed and it wasn't pressed before, then it sets it with current millis, right? So set gives it a timestamp, and then it delays it to stop a bounce. And then then it ignores it after that point unless the button goes low again, right? The button goes low, and the timestamp has been set so it's greater than 0. Then it says the button press time is the millis minus the last millis, right? Basically, effectively. So that tells you how long the button's pressed for before it's released, and that allows you to then track it and see about menu selections, and you know how long the button's held down for to select which menu. Right. So as you would have seen in the previous video, I demonstrated the menu system. Although I'm not happy with that system yet, I'm still not. In fact, I have to push it twice to get to a menu. I'm gonna put in some timings in there so it will actually automatically go to the actual selections after 1 second or something, so you don't actually have to push it again. Anyway, that's a bit of fine tuning. I'll do it later on once it's all functional. A menu handler is what's actually handling all the menu system, so from that, basically that controls a lot of it. So it checks if buttons have been pushed and what menu you're in when you're pushing a button and that sort of thing. So which is this bit here. So this is the menu handler section. Again, it's checking timing, so it's the longest menu is greater than 5 seconds, medium menu is that one, and the other menu is this one here. So, and then that's short press, and they've got various menu options, so depending on which one you selected, it will set to a different menu type, and then for those menu types you can select, well, it knows which menu to bring up on the second press. So yeah, it's messy, but it works. It works quite nicely. So this is the bit that saves the channel. So it saves the encode, the band, the channel number, and the band limit, which was a hard-coded setting. That's now selectable. So it's like the VFO or within band option for the end of band. So when you go from 1 to 40 and vice versa. That's the one that sets the band limit stuff up. So it determines whether it should be a VFO or band limit, and displays the option. That's for the menu. This is more menu stuff here for setting the band, and this is how I do the offsets for the bands. So I just have like a bass channel, which in this case is F. I've made that the bass band, and I can go up and down from that. If I change any of these numbers, it will change where those channels go. So if I need to shift up by 1 band and not go so low, I can shift them all up by 1. Change all these numbers by 45. Done. And that's the band options and display. So it displays what they are. I've got serial data being sent, so I'll just monitor it on the computer still. Once I've actually finished it, I'll comment all those out and I'll take them out. Changing step size, that's that menu option there. And this is the one that does all the actual display side of it, so we'll skip through that again. this one here is handling display, so it converts the variables into a usable variable. So each menu is set with a name for the variable, so the first digit and last digit, well, first and second digit, and then it converts those, depending on which menu has been selected, to the first digit, second digit variables, which are then picked up by that function when it's looping. Right, so nothing's passed directly. Well, there's only one or two things which are passed directly from one function to another. Of course, they're tied directly anyway. But most things are set as variables, and when it's looping through its normal code, it picks up that variable and uses it. So it just overwrites with whatever value you want to use. So it knows which menu it's using. So in this case, menu 12 is for the step setting. Menu 11 is setting the bands. Right, so it just overwrites the display with what the current data it needs. So that's all that's doing. It's nice and simple, and that means you can just keep on looping the whole code, and it will just pick up what it needs to use at the time. And this is for setting the actual encoder options. This is all the encoder code in here, detecting bands and steps and all that stuff. So it's debouncing. This is how I'm doing debouncing. So it reads the pin, delays a little bit, reads the pin again. If it's still the same state, then it will do something. It will say it's working. It will say it's being turned. And this one here detects the speed, so it sets the millis, the current timing, and you can use that to help determine what speed it's been turned at. And just in this bit here is actually doing the actual function where it's doing it. So this is for channels, which is the only one that's doing velocity control. None of the menus have that. So it's got a check here for the speed that's being turned up, basically current millis, you compared to the last millis from its last turn, and it's got a little timer here. If I change these numbers, it changes how sensitive it is for the velocity control. So that's all I've really had to do for the velocity is checking timings and making sure it's debounced properly. I've got lots of debouncing timings, but once I change the display timing and the way that works, it will affect all the debouncing here and the sensitivity of this function. So I'll have to rewrite all this, well, change the timings and stuff on that. Anyway, this is obviously the set register stuff, and none of that's changed since last time. And at the very top here, we've got that's all the same. These are the various variables I'm setting for setting encodes, that kind of thing. This is now to choose whether it's using the band limits or if it's going as far as a display can go. Right, so if I comment those out and uncomment these, it will go to -19 and up to 99. But I've got it set to go 1 to 4D. That's what I'm doing here. So I can do it either way, but for the function I'm using, I want to do it this way. Setting bands and stuff like that, step sizes, so it knows what the step sizes are. This one here is step per channel, so it's 2 steps per channel, so it's 5 kHz steps on the PLL function. Various variables that are used for displays, encoder variables, preset like pin numbers that are being used. This will preset the segment polarity and the digit polarity, so you can use either type of display, just a whole lot of resetting, or presetting the timings and stuff like that. So yeah, and presetting EEPROM stuff and loading it. The setup function now obviously sets up the LED segment stuff, but also reads on the EEPROM, and I'm not actually trying to keep it tidy and tight. I'm just using nice logical steps in the actual memory, but so it'll load it up, loads of EEPROM stuff. If it makes sense, it looks like it's a logical value, it will use it. If it doesn't, it will use the default, which is set up at the top here. Yeah. Anyway, so that's enough of that for now. I'll carry on with some more shortly after I've done those edits. Right, so I've been playing around with this as I showed in my code just now, getting rid of that for loop and changing it to a variable based switch, and that is now working. So I've got it going really slow right now. Actually, it's doing like 1 second. Alright, so you actually see what display's doing. It does one, then the other, that one, then that one. Alright, if I change that, it will change. Alright, I changed it by 4 then. This is a bit. I still haven't sorted this piece of bit anyway. Alright, so 29, 27 there, right? Whatever, 28. Okay, so that is actually working. Alright, So the one which used to show up was 37. There we go, 37. So we did have all that ghosting on there. If I just turn this power supply off, you see there's now no ghosting there, right, because of the speed I'm going at. I'm going to speed this up now. This is now 1 millisecond instead of 1 second. Alright, so there we go, it's solid on, and there's no ghosting. It looks absolutely fine now. Alright, so that's using a different loop system, and yeah, that's absolutely fine. And responsiveness on the encoder is all absolutely fine too, when it's not playing around in the circuit board. But you know, it's all good. So I'm happy with that. So I just thought I'd show that changing that code did this and fixed that issue I was having. So that's it. That's one thing that was really bugging me, was that display, and now I'm happy with that. That was one of the hurdles I was having. And once I actually stepped away from it for a couple of days and actually had a chance to think about it, without being so involved, sometimes distancing yourself from something can help you reevaluate, I suppose. And that applies to not just electronics, but all sorts of things in life anyway. Experiences though. Yeah. So yeah, that's working great now, so that's good. I'm happy with that now. The that ghosting I was getting is gone, and I can actually go a lot faster. Well, I don't need to. Why update it really quickly if you don't actually need to do that? Now it's based on that timing. Then you know, it's good. So I'm now going to go back up to the computer and show the rest of the code of the changed code to show you what I've done, which is good now. Right, I'll go and do that. Right, so I've done the update to the code, as you would have just seen in the previous little bit of the video, where the display is now working really nicely. None of that ghosting anymore. So I'm going to show you what I've done in the code. Where are we? Wasn't much up here. To the configuration side, I deleted the delay 2 micros. That's gone. I wasn't using that anymore, so I've deleted that out. And this one here, delay 2, I've also deleted that out. Didn't need them. I've added in this digit here, which was part of the original for loop section, and display digit, I've added that one in as well. So that's used for switching between the digits, so that allows for future expansion as well. So it's written for 2 digits, but if I want to add a third, it's really easy to do that. I'll just have to add a third section in the switch to switch on that third pin, whatever that will be, and the same other code, which is actually calling and specifying what the digit actually is. I can do all that really easily. It's not hard at all. You know, it'd probably take me 5 minutes to add a third digit to this thing. Right, but so I'm only using 2 digits right now, so that's absolutely fine. So let's scroll down. It's about 920 something like. Okay, here we go. Set display. So this first bit here, I can change that now. Now it does work. Actually, I'll just leave that out. There's a comment from bug testing, so I can go completely through it. And that's from bug testing as well. I can also go. Right, so it's got that first delay section here, which originally I commented out because I couldn't get it to work properly. Now it's using this. Right, so I was on the right track with setting the delay timers up, but because of the for loop, it was breaking it. It just wouldn't work right. Well, now all I've done is allowed this to work by uncommenting that, which is what I did to turn that feature back off again, well, that function back off again. So that allows it to then reset, or set the delay 1 micros to the current micros. Right, so that gets the current microsecond time and sets that variable to that, and it compares that with the delay time. Alright, so if current micros is greater than the previous micros, plus the delay time, right? So it's that delay time is basically being added onto this to work out when it should run. So I've got it set at 1 millisecond right now, and that seems absolutely fine. So that's all the same down there. This could actually go now, but I might leave it in. This section here is for doing display brightness. So if I change the value at the very top here, which I will probably eventually, where is it? Display brightness. Currently I've got it set at 1, right? So that's 1 millisecond. Yeah, 1 milli. So that basically means it's going full brightness because it's only switching off for 1 millisecond. If I increase that value, the display will get darker in order to dim it. So that's something I can actually put into the menu system as well, is that you allow this to be controlled from the menu system, so you can adjust the display brightness. How required that is, I don't know. It could be something I just set when I put a board into a radio. I could probably just set this to suit the radio and then leave it and it's set and forget. You know, you never change it again because it's in code. That is possible because I could just resave this code for each one I do, and it's against its serial number or something. You know. Anyway, that's further down the line. I'm not there yet. I will be there, but I'm not there yet. Okay, so what I've done here is this. So this section replaced the for loop, and what I'm doing, I'm checking for if its display digit is digit 1 or if it's digit 2. If it's digit 1, it'll turn on digit 1, turn off digit 2, sets the digit information, right? So what the value is for that variable. Okay, so it comes from multiplex first digit, which is passed to the function here. Right, so when I'm sending a call to this display function, I'm sending it the values of the 2 digits. So if I wanted to set 3 digits, I'll just add another one of those onto the end of this. Alright, so that's setting that to this digit, which is what this is here. That's checking the value. These are ASCII numbers. I could have made them absolutely anything, but I've kept them in line with ASCII. Although I'm not sure the numbers are in line with ASCII. I might have to look at that. But all the letters are certainly in line with ASCII characters, except for capitalization. Actually, I've used lowercase references for all of these. Like this E is actually a capital E, and so it'd actually be a different ASCII value. But anyway, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I know what I've done, so that's fine. Alright, so if it's digit 1, it'll then set the flag for digit 2 for the next loop. And if it's digit 2, it'll start for digit 2 instead, turn off digit 1, turn on digit 2, set the flag for digit 1. If there's some kind of issue where it's not been set correctly, it will set the value at nothing, and it will set to digit 1, so it should start up here on the next loop. And that's all fine. I've got a really small microsecond delay in here. I just like to do that just to smooth out functions. I probably don't really need to do that. I think I'll delete that actually. I think it doesn't need it. Or will I? No, I'll leave it at slight delay next. So I'll start to have a little bit of delay between when it's switching the digits around. Right. So these are the commons it's switching, and these are the segments it's switching. So I like to have a little delay in after switch the commons just to help it a little bit. I think it's just a good thing. It may not matter at all. I could be completely over worrying, but you know, overcomplicating things doesn't need to. So again, this is all the digit stuff. So this is what segments it turns on for which value it's being sent. All right. So every value I'm going to send it is in this list. It's probably a more concise way of doing this. This one here I got copied this from Mark. He's got LL as the left and right bars of a single digit, and I haven't used it yet, but I thought, well, it's a good little thing. It could come in handy, so I'll put that in here in the code as well, and I've called it 129. Alright, so I call 128 minus 1 and 129 LL. Alright, those being because they can be passed those values directly. So if I send it 128, it will display minus 1. If I send it 129, it will display LL. So, right, so that's that, and that's the changes. That was it. So really, the bulk of it was just this getting rid of that for loop, which, you know, as I say, once I stepped away from it and thought about it for a little bit, was a mistake. If I wasn't trying to do anything else, anything outside of that bit of code, it would have been fine. But because I was trying to manipulate data outside of that loop, it just wouldn't work right. So, you know, that was a mistake. That was the wrong kind of condition to be using for that. So it wasn't the right situation for it. So anyway, so this works nicely. So it switches digits and you know, based on the timing here, right? So timing there for brightness and the timing up here for the actual display delay. So it'll only update the display every 1 millisecond. So it means each digit is being updated every 2 milliseconds, because it's got to do 2 digits. If I had 3 digits, it'd be every 3 milliseconds, right? When I was doing testing on the actual flicker, see when I started flickering, I was getting 12 milliseconds, but that was with a different setup. So that was with that for loop. So, and this is now before it turns the digits off, right? So it doesn't matter how long its delay is, the digit will just stay on until it gets told to turn off, and then it does the next bit. So it doesn't actually have a state where all the digits are off, unless I tell them all to be off, that is. Alright. So yeah, it's you know, pretty simple. Yeah, I think that can go. Take that out. So yeah, it's coming on quite nicely. So I'm happy with that code now. That works what I want now. The only thing I'm still playing with is menu system. Really, I'm not 100% happy with the way that's working. I mean, they work and they're functional and they are easy to understand, but it's not as good as I'd like it to be. If you say do a short press to get the band menu up, for example, you have to press it again to actually change a value. Well, to see the values, to change them, and then press it again to select one. That could be made shorter. I mean, I want to remove that middle press. So you push it, get the band menu up. It delays for a second or so to show you, so you can see what the display says, and then automatically goes to the selections without having to push the button again. That'll be the next thing I probably wanted to change on the software side of it, and then maybe adding in that display brightness option, which I've got up here, right? Making that controllable from a menu option. I was going to set a home channel up on it as well, so when you did just a press with nothing or something, you go to a home channel. But I was originally going to do a press and turn to get bands, and I think from a user interface perspective, for people that want to change bands a lot, that's probably the better way of doing it, rather than going to menu, changing it, come back out. If you just push it and turn it, that'd be the most simple way of getting to it. So I'm probably going to rewrite the code for that band menu section and move that out, so it's a push and turn to get the band menus, which is what I originally envisaged for it. And then I could leave that lower level menu, which the band one's currently taken up. I could move that to something else. I could make that one steps maybe, or VFO channels option, and bring those down a bit in the menus. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how often the brightness would need to be changed. I don't know. If you're, say, in a house or something like that, or a stationary situation like that where the lighting doesn't really change much, then maybe you don't need to use the brightness setting at all. But if you're in a mobile situation between day and night, you may want to have a setting, and you want it to be an easy setting to get to. You know, equally, you could say you could do a push and turn for the brightness. So you push it in and turn it for the brightness up and down, and then let go. I mean, that could also work. So I'm not 100% settled on which one are you the best to use. I mean, it'll depend on the individual, I think, really. Whether you want a press and turn for band or a press and turn for brightness, which one are you going to use the most? Some will use brightness more often, some will use bands more often. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure yet. But anyway. So that's the current situation now. It's looking good, and I am happy with it. I am just waiting for the boards. I suppose what I could do is fish out a Arduino, a small Arduino board, which are what is going to be used on the final boards. And I'm sure I've got some here. I'll probably better have after all this, and program that and get it ready to go. And just I mean, I've proved the concept on this Arduino board, and in theory it shouldn't be any different on a smaller Arduino board. It should still work exactly the same way, but you never know. There's other things I've got to sort out too, like the actual display and how I'm going to control that properly, because I want to keep the original display in the radio, and you know, this is what all this is about, and where are we? This bit here, setting the polarity, so I can choose which polarities I need to use depending on which kind of displays in the radio, you know. And I've got the aspect of then of, if I'm driving a display directly off the Arduino, I'm going to need to put series resistors in there and stuff like that, so I'm probably going to need to have some kind of adapter for the series resistors to go to the display. I hadn't actually considered that aspect of it at the time when I've ordered these other boards. These boards I've done are for the actual Arduino controller, which has got the interface, like plug connections and stuff on it, and a voltage regulator, onboard voltage regulator to supply everything. And then I've got another little board which is for a PLL adapter, so you can plug it into a different PLL location depending on which radio it's going into. Those are what have been made so far. I haven't got anything display wise or encoder wise. I haven't done that side of it yet because I wasn't quite sure how I was going to handle it. I quite like the look of the ones that Mark has got. So his display boards look pretty much bang on, right? How that interfaces with what I'm doing, I'm not sure. You know, I'm sure I could ask Mark for the files on that, and he would give them to me. I'm sure. I'll just have to ask him. You know, it's nice like that. So, but I'm not sure they're going to be what I need. So I haven't actually pulled the front panel off this Cobra yet to see what the mounting is going to be like, how hard it is for me to adapt to the original display, that kind of thing. I know I need a PCB for the encoder. I know that for a fact. For the time being, I'll probably just mount on a bit of perf board until I get the prototyping stages out of the way and figure out exactly what I need to do, and then design a board for that side of it, because the board, that's probably the most variable part of the whole situation, is how you mount the encoder, how you mount the display. As Mark has already done that groundwork as well, you know, he's found it out, and with Mark and Mike has been helping him as well with doing prototype testing, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's got it really well sorted out. Whereas I've still got to go through those stages and figure out what I'm going to do there and how I need to do it for me, compared to my interface. I mean, obviously Mark is using his own displays, so it's just replacing the whole thing, bolt in, bolt out, which in a way is a really good way of doing it, because it's nice and simple. You know it works, you just put it into the radio and it will carry on working. When you have to modify what's already there, it adds a level of complexity and time, and that's okay. Depends on what you're trying to achieve. I want to try and keep the same display in there purely because my tight ass, and I don't want to spending money on displays and making PCBs and stuff when I can use what's already there. However, 3 digits has got benefits, and I probably will do some boards with 3 digits on. I've purchased some 3-digit displays, so it's very likely we'll end up going that way. But initially I just want to try some basic displays, keep it original, use the original displays, and go from there. Right, so listen to me waffling on again, saying stuff I've probably already said 10 times. I don't remember. This is video number 6, is it, on this thing? Something like that. Yeah, so it's coming together quite nicely. There's all the code. I'll just flick through it again in case anyone's missed any bits. If anyone wants to try and follow along, you know, you want to type it out, go for it. The actual configuration side is pretty good. What I think I might do next is finish off the radio modification side of things, where it's got the I've swapped the original PLL loop crystal to a 10.24 megahertz crystal from the 11.325 that was original. It had 11.1125 when I got it because it's been modified. I've taken out, put a 10.24 in, and that's all part of the sensing for the VCO to get around the issue I was having with the FN signal going into the PLL, where the signal wasn't strong enough for that frequency. The PLL doesn't like anything below 5 megahertz going into that FN signal. If it does, it needs a really strong input in order to work properly. So I worked around that by using a higher frequency by tapping straight off the VCO, which meant I had to modify the loop crystal section and use that also as the local oscillator, the reference oscillator for the new PLL. So it's all tapped in that way too. So anyway, I'll clearly cover that in the previous video. If you haven't seen any other stuff and don't know what I'm talking about, look at the previous videos. MC145170 experiments part 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and I'm sure there's going to be a 7 and 8, maybe a 9. We'll see how we go. it's going on a long time. Most of it's me waffling, but yeah, it's got some good stuff in there. So anyone that's trying to replicate what I'm doing here, that's fine, go for it. You know, if I'm going to make some of these definitely, and I will be using them in radios in New Zealand. The real question is going to be how many they'll end up doing. Who knows? The market here isn't very big. It's not, CB is not very popular here, so I might only do 10 boards in a year, if that. I might do much less than that. So who knows? I might end up selling these overseas. I mean, it might be possible. I might do these and then sell them as an option overseas, and be done overseas, like no, USA for example, where CB is still fairly popular. Maybe Europe. I'm not sure about how that would go, but probably America's more likely. But I don't know. I mean, Mark's already doing his boards there, so he's already got it pretty well covered as far as this kind of conversion. He's using a different PLL, and ultimately that doesn't really matter. It's just a tool, you know, a means to an end. That's all it really is. It's just a different PLL, and ultimately that doesn't really affect anything. Maybe timings on the phase detector, maybe not. It probably doesn't matter that much, but yeah, so he's already got that done. So and he's put a huge amount of work over it. I'm not quite sure how long he's been doing that conversion. I've seen videos there from him at least a year, I think. He's really started doing prototyping on stuff on those boards, and working out the code and that sort of stuff. So but you know, so he's done a lot of work on it already, and he's done a really nice job on it. So you know, I know they're available, and it's a matter of as fast as you can build them, I'm guessing. So, but I mean, I just want to do my one. I just want to do, you know, I want to play race myself and do it myself and work it all out and create something. You know, the fun is building it and making it work. You know, Mark can agree with that, I'm sure. You know, the fun part is making it work and working the problems out and getting something at the end of it. You can say, oh, I did that, you know, and that's what the enjoyment is from about. It's not about converting all these radios. Well, that's, you know, just like a side effect, really, what we're doing. You know, for us, the fun is creating these things. You know, that's what's enjoyable about it. And I do tend to be a little more possessive, I think, about what I've created. It depends on what it is. Some things I really don't give a stuff. You know, it's just fine. I don't care. You know, use it, have it, whatever. But some things where I do try and keep it a bit closer to the chest and keep it a bit more private and say, yep, that's mine, I created that, and I like credit for creating that. There are times like that where I do have those situations, but it really does depend on what it is. I'm sharing this because I'm not really bothered. I mean, if you're capable of replicating this, then to be honest, you just won't have to build it yourself in the first place. You know, it's just, as I've seen AVE say, it's just Lego, you know. the code is just bits of Lego. You know, each code function has a certain function. It does that one thing, and then you have another function which does another thing. You know, it's just Lego, as he says. You know, if you're not familiar with AVE, go and look him up. It's funny as hell. Good guy. I enjoy his videos greatly, as do many people. And if you haven't come across him yet, then you need to go and find him. Anyway, yeah, so it's all good. The software side is close. I mean, it's at a state now where it's functional and working and can be used. You know, you can almost say this is, you know, revision 1 of the software. You know, and it's all ready to go. So, but there's things I want to improve. You know, it's functional and working, and then there's good, not necessarily the same thing. You know, I say the menu system. I like user interface. Right, that's some of the things. Let me start again. One of the things I believe I do quite well at is user interface design. So if I'm making something for people to use, be it a website, especially website stuff, I get told a lot of the time how easy things are that I've built, how easy it is to use them, and that's something I really like. Some of the focuses I have is to try and make things as simple to use as possible, minimal steps, idiot proofing, that kind of thing. You know, you make it so you can only do one thing, and it take the options away which don't need to be options, and minimize it and simplify it, and it makes it much easier to use. I mean, sure, you can have that level of complexity in some way. Sometimes trying to find that balance between simple and complex, you know, trying to get it so it's got all the functions you want but still be simple, that can be hard. But like in this case where I've got this 2-digit display, that's going to make things a little tricky. You know, trying to have a simple, easy to understand menu system and display of what the menu system is tricky. You know, so I'm limited in that way, but I limited myself that way. You know, because of my my goal is to have just the original display in there. I may end up scrapping that and just going to 3 digits, and that's sod it, it's not worth the effort, you know, and say it's much better with 3, which is what Mark has obviously ended up doing, is gone to 3 digits because he realised that that's the best thing for him. And I probably, to be honest, I probably would do 2 in the end. It's likely I will go that way, but I want to try it with 2 and see if I can make that work. You know, why not? I mean, I don't want to be doing exactly the same thing Mark is doing. There should be some kind of point of difference, you know. Mark's obviously works differently to mine, because we've liaised a bit about this PLL and stuff like that, and tried to help each other out. You know, he sent me some code and things like that to try and get me started because I wasn't familiar with serial. This is actually the first serial device I've used on Arduino, apart from display. Right, serial display, I'm not going to count that. Right, anything other than a serial display, this is the first thing I've used. Is this? So it's a bit of a learning curve for me, especially all the serial data and stuff like that from the up top here, where it's doing all this writes. You know, I'm doing a bit banging to do the serial data. It's not like a traditional serial output. It's bit banged, so I've got to send individual bits. So because I didn't really know where to start with that, Mark sent me what he had done to work with that, the same PLL, from his experiments with it, and that showed me roughly what I needed to do, and I just replicated that with the Arduino, and in my own code rewrote it. So, but it showed me what needed to be done. That's what I needed, was that clarity, and to clear my mind about, hey, what kind of control and what systems are used to achieve that, you know, because I didn't know, because I've never done it, you know. So this has been a learning experience for me. I should have probably looked at this kind of thing 10 years ago, in all honesty, you know. I've always been behind the 8 ball when it comes to learning new technologies and new techniques. I've always held back a bit because I suppose you could say I'm comfortable with what I've got. I don't like to change. Equally, I enjoy the change, you know. So there's a bit of a hard line there between the two. But learning how to do serial communications with bit banging, initially I suppose you could say it scared me because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was a bit lost. But having Mark send me that code, and that basically reinforced my understanding, and made me realise, oh, it's actually nowhere near as complicated as I thought it was. It's actually fairly simple. having a logic analyzer to analyze what the hell's going on, well, that certainly, you know, that made it dead easy then, because I could see, yep, it's working, and I know it's working. You know, otherwise you're guessing, you just don't know. So if you're doing any kind of serial communications, get a logic analyzer with decoding. You absolutely have to. You just can't not have it, really. It's just, you know, you just have to have it if you're doing serial stuff. That's all I can say. Alright, so I've waffled on and off. Yeah, so that might be enough for this video, and I'll probably do a part 7. Oh yeah, there's going to be a part 7. Alright, have a good one. Give us a thumbs up, or not, whatever. I need to stop talking, my throat hurts again. See you later. Have a good one.